Hi, everybody. This is Stephanie Greenberg with Greenberg and Sienkiewicz. Thank you for joining us tonight for our Wine and Divorce series. Tonight, we are going to be discussing the payroll protection program, the stimulus, and their impact on child support payments. And tonight I'm joined by my associate, Casey, who will introduce herself in just a second here. But I wanted to remind everybody that you can ask questions throughout the program. You can enter them right on the Facebook live stream, and we can answer either as we go along or at the end of the program. So I'll just turn it over to Casey to introduce herself.
Hi, my name is Casey Perino, and I am the associate here at Greenberg and Sienkiewicz. And like Stephanie said, today we're discussing the payroll protection program and stimulus and child support. So to start off, we can start by talking about the governor's order. This week, Governor Pritzker discussed a 5-step plan to open up Illinois called Restore Illinois. We are currently in phase 2. In order to move on to phase 3, where manufacturing, offices, barbershops, and more can open and groups of up to 10 people can congregate, certain requirements need to be met. The governor made clear that Illinois will not meet these requirements before May 29th, when his current stay-at-home order is due to expire. Since we are only in phase 2 currently and most businesses are still required to be closed, many businesses have been negatively impacted and a great number of people have been laid off or have had reduced hours. This has meant that people have reduced income or no income at all during this time. The Small Business Administration did make available the Payroll Protection Program for small businesses. This is a loan meant to keep small businesses afloat and to retain employees during the pandemic. The government also sent out stimulus checks to individuals who earn below a certain income threshold on their last tax returns. So how do the payroll protection program and stimulus affect child support, and what do the courts consider to be someone's income for purposes of calculating child support? So before we discuss the payroll protection program and stimulus, it's important to briefly discuss what courts typically consider income when calculating child support. Generally, child support is calculated by looking at income from all sources. This means W-2 wages, 1099 income, bonuses, investment income, and the like. For people who are self-employed, the money they pay themselves from their businesses is considered income, but the income must also be reasonable. This means that if someone is paying themselves less than what they should by putting more money back into the business than they ordinarily would or increasing other expenditures, the court can consider their income higher than what that individual reports.
So Casey was just discussing, what the courts look at and consider generally when it comes to payments of child support and what is considered income for child support purposes. I'm going to discuss kind of how that applies to the payroll protection program funds and the stimulus money that individuals are receiving. So first I'll talk about the payroll protection program, or PPP. The PPP is meant to protect small businesses. So it's not income to a single individual person. It's funds that a business receives. The purpose of the PPP funds are to retain employees and give them the same salary they were earning prior to the pandemic. If a small business received a PPP loan, it's likely that they're paying their employees the same amount that they were previously paying them. Therefore, an individual employed by a company or the owner of a company receiving PPP funds would likely have probably no basis to modify their child support payment, as they should be receiving the same income that they previously were before the pandemic. One sort of caveat to that is if a business owner is more than 60 days late on their child support payments, they wouldn't even qualify to get funds from the payroll protection program at all. So now I'm just going to touch on stimulus money. Unlike the money from the PPP, stimulus checks are being sent to individuals, and it's dependent on that individual's earnings from their prior year's tax return, or the most recent tax return that's available to the IRS. So the stimulus is a one-time payment. It's not ongoing. It's one check. Typically, individuals get about $1,200. If a child or children are involved, the stimulus check will likely include an allotment for the child or children. So who is entitled to keep the allotment for the children is a question that we've actually received quite frequently, and it's a pretty contested issue. Generally, the primary parent, meaning the parent who has the children the majority of the time, would be the parent who would be entitled to retain the allotment. If the parties are currently divorced, but perhaps they were married at the time their last tax return was filed, they should each receive their individual stimulus check. However, if the parties are still married, but they're going through a divorce, the stimulus check would likely be considered, marital funds or a marital asset, which the court could potentially divide equitably. Equitably is how the court divides all marital property or marital assets. So that doesn't mean equally, it means equitably, and the court looks at a variety of factors to figure out what exactly makes sense. But to make matters simpler, parties should probably just equally divide the stimulus if it's at issue and it's, a payment meant for two people. The stimulus itself would also be considered income for child support purposes, because remember, child support is income from all sources. That doesn't really include the child allotment, as that's meant obviously to be used for the children themselves. But this issue probably isn't really worth litigating. It's a one-time payment. It's a relatively minimal amount of money that we're talking about. And if you were to pay an attorney to go, into court and litigate this issue, you're probably going to expend a significant amount of money doing that, when the return you would get, the amount of money that you would receive from the stimulus, probably wouldn't really be worth it. If an individual owes past due child support or has what we call a child support arrearage, it's likely that that person's stimulus check either has been already or will be intercepted, and the funds will be given to the parent who is owed the child support to cover whatever the amount is that's due and owing to them. So there's an interesting case in the news right now, and there's actually a few cases like this, but there's a man in Oregon who owed about $11,000 to his ex-wife in child support. His new wife, he's remarried now, his new wife's stimulus was intercepted and paid out to the ex-wife for child support. So his new wife had children of her own, not from this current marriage, and she received a stimulus check meant for her individually and meant for the support of her children. I think it was $3,500. And the entire thing was taken, garnished, and then sent to her now husband's ex-wife. So this has been happening a bit. The IRS says that they're looking into the issue and will hopefully resolve the issue. But they did say that it might take quite a bit of time to resolve that. Just so people are aware that there is an issue going on with that. So that basically wraps up our child support discussion for tonight related to the PPP and the stimulus. If you had any questions related to this issue or child support generally, or any question divorce related, feel free to send us a message on Facebook or shoot us an email. We're happy to answer questions. Also happy to answer questions live next week when we stream again. So next Thursday, we will be streaming live again on Facebook. And we'll be discussing spousal support and contribution to expenses, both household and child-related expenses, and how the pandemic may impact those issues. So please send any questions on those topics ahead of time, and we'll answer them live for you next week. Also, join us live this coming Monday at 7:30 p.m. for our Mental Health Monday series. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us, and we will see you again soon.